Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Louis D'Souza, and today is Monday, March the 2nd, 2020. It's 4 p.m. New York time, and wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And we're 1 week away from a little bit of a staff shift because two of us are going to become three of us, Louis. My sister-in-law, Ioana June's going to be coming in to join us starting next week. We got that confirmation today. She's
How can we go from my sister-in-law to your sister-in-law?
Well, I don't know. Is it illegal? I'm not sure.
Sounds incestuous.
Actually, what would be really interesting if we got both sisters-in-law on at the same time. That would be fun.
Yeah.
You know, just turn the conversation over to them because the two of them, I mean, they go nuts. That's all. But it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So just wanted to let everybody know Ioana is going to be joining us next week. And she asked me about topics, kind of on an ongoing basis. And I suggested stuff that's right in her wheelhouse, stuff that she likes. She has her PhD in statistics, but she previously was pursuing it in the neurosciences and neurobiology, so she's got a lot to bring there. She's into diet and health and basically into a wide range of things that all tie directly into law of attraction. I think some of them are going to be things that you like too, so it's going to be an interesting mix here. It's going to be fun.
Sounds great.
Something to look forward to. And for today, I thought we'd do something we haven't done in quite some time. We were doing it for a while, probably about a year ago, and then we kind of dropped out doing it. And I did it with one of my co-hosts last week. It worked out nicely. I did it with Cindy. Basically, I'm going to go to one of the Facebook groups, and this time I'm going to go to the group called the Abraham Hicks Vortex Group, and just pick out some questions that people have asked about problems they're having with LOA, and give you a chance, Louis and me, to voice our opinions. Like if we were talking to this person, what would we say to them? How would we answer their questions? So if that sounds good to you, let's get going. And the first one, it's a pretty serious one too. She writes, anyone in here heal themselves of stage 4 cancer? My dad was just diagnosed and started chemo, and it is starting chemo soon. I've been an Aber for 10 years, meaning Abraham Hicks follower. So, I mean, we're going to go like right off the deep end with the first question. What do you tell her?
Oh, there's loads of things I'd love to say. None of them are overly pretty.
We're going right into controversy. All right.
Well, you know, it to me is beautiful, but to a lot of people, death is not so beautiful. And we need to come to terms that we all die. We need to come to terms with the beauty of death, the perfection of it, the design of it. You know, none of us came to this planet without knowing we're going to die. I mean, you know, physically. Mm-hmm. And also from the other point of view is the immortality of soul. So when it comes to somebody else, you don't have too much control over their point of attraction. You can be an influencer, and to the degree they want you to influence them.
Right.
So you love to have your parent remain around on this planet for a bit longer. I've recently had my father pass away. You too? It was your father, was it? Yeah.
My mom passed recently. My dad passed about 12 years, 12 years ago. Wow, 12 years ago. Oh my goodness.
So, you know, you've had your mom. I've had my dad recently. The thing is to have quality of time and not worry so much about when the end's going to be. You really want to, you know, you want to spend quality time, and you need to know what quality time is for you and for them, and try and merge the two to see where you can come up and deal with it, because that quality time could help them heal. That quality time could help them go peacefully, you know. So, you know, to me, it's a lot about appreciating the cycle, appreciating death, appreciating the birth and death cycle that we all go through, and really loving it. So, you know, somebody said, well, yeah, that's easy for you to say. What happens if your daughter's killed tomorrow? And I said, well, you know, I just have to deal with it. You know, I don't really have a choice.
That's
you can't bring them back to life again. So, you know, it's a real tricky one, because, you know, will I feel sad? Of course I'll feel sad. that's not a question, not an issue. Will I understand they're gone somewhere better? That's not really a question because they were always here, that better part of them, and always will be here, and I will be able to communicate with them if I remain very happy and positive. So, it's a long question. So what was the exact was about stage 4 cancer? Can I?
Well, it said, first of all, anyone in here, meaning in the group, heal themselves of stage 4 cancer.
Right. Okay.
And then my dad was just diagnosed, and I've been a neighbor.
So, yeah, a lot would have to do with, you're a neighbor. How much have you managed to pass on to your family, the understanding, and can you work with them on that level or not? And if not, then you have to work with them one way. If they are, then you can work with them another way. So there's a lot of factors to take into consideration. You need to get to know that person's circumstances much better to be able to answer that. And, if they came live onto our show, it would be great because then you can feel your way through it and maybe help. So.
Yeah. Actually, my first question in my own mind when I read their question, and when I read her question, I should say, is what can she tell us about her dad's state of mind? Because like you pointed out, she could be supportive to that if his desire is to heal himself. But he's the one who has to be in the right state of mind. So that's the first question. Her question really doesn't address that. So what is his state of mind? And I guess we just don't really know. If his state of mind is good, there's a lot you can do to help. First of all, he can do a lot to help. He's going to be doing most of the heavy lifting anyway.
Good point, Wald. Very good point. Yeah.
And if he is in that good frame of mind, I mean, I honestly believe that when someone is in a good frame of mind about healing, about their own health, and about improving what Abraham calls their vibration about their own health, then they're already halfway there. I mean, that's what the law of attraction tells us. So that's really the most important consideration. Where's the dad's mindset right now? Now, in terms of her own ability to support him, then, well, that comes down to her ability to stay vibrationally matched to him healing. And I mean, you can kind of hear in her question the doubt about that. So clearly she'd have to do a little work on kind of transitioning her vibration upward, ratcheting it up a few notches so she could be supportive of him. Again, like you pointed out, maybe he's not in a frame of mind where he wants to keep living. Maybe he's kind of done with life. My mom was done with life, and
many people are.
Many people are. Well, actually, I think Abraham points out that all of them are at the point that they choose to die.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to be true for all of us. So, interesting thing too. My wife and I had a conversation last night, kind of tangentially related to this, because she pointed out that you mentioned my dad. My dad's passing was this month. It was 9 days from now, 12 years ago. It's March 11th, 2008. She says, "Oh, the passing of your dad is coming up soon," and she said it in a way that indicated, no, that's an important thing. And for most people, it is an important thing. When a loved one passes, the date of the passing is a very important thing. Heck, we put it onto grave markers. We put it into obituaries. It becomes part of the lexicon of ancestry when you're doing, family trees and so forth. When were they born? When did they die? I mean, this is like a big part of it. And yet my answer to her was, I know this is going to sound strange, but especially after hearing the teachings of Abraham and doing the show and so forth, I don't really pay much attention to the death. The death date doesn't make that much of a big deal to me. I can tell you what date my mom died. I can tell you what date my dad died, but I can also tell you what, the date is going to be on Friday, and it has about as much emotional connection for me, which is not something that most people experience, so there's that side of it too. I think a lot of the point behind this question is she's feeling angst. She's feeling a lot of really difficult emotions. And that's really what's at the root of the question. So dividing the question up into pieces so that it can be handled, I think, is helpful. First of all, what's her dad's state of mind? That alone will help, I think, shift her because she already knows this stuff. She's an Abraham Hicks follower. She's been following for 10 years. She knows. Okay. So that part's not going to be too difficult. Once she knows what her dad's mindset is, I think it's going to answer a lot of questions for her. I take. Yeah. So.
And she probably already knows that. But if she wants to acknowledge the truth of it, that's another story.
Mm. Yeah. Well,
because one of the questions I tend to want to ask people who are leaving, I tend to them, do you want to go or do you want to stay?
Mm.
And the interesting thing is they often don't answer truthfully. So you start getting to the point of really feeling what somebody's meaning, not what they're saying.
Mm.
And that is an important thing for my wife, who's, palliative care, where she helps people end of life. So, she knows, she'll phone up the family and said, your mom's going to probably pass away tonight. I advise you to come round.
Right. Interesting you should say that too, because as we were talking about this, I was thinking about a former co-host who used to do the Monday show with me named Patty Framo, who is a palliative care specialist. So here we are.
Oh, right.
There's a whole cycle going on right here. Yeah. And she would say very much the same thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Your monitor's bouncing a lot. I don't know.
Oh, well, it's probably me. I'm not sure. We're going to just
like these movies all got these moving cameras. It's also cool these days. They bounce all over the place.
See, I think I'm used to it just because you've got that chroma cam background and it's kind of bouncing stuff off of your outline.
Yeah.
It's like
so you're following the rhythm.
I'm watching the motion. Yes.
So it's a very individual thing. This whole death and parent dying and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very individual.
Mm.
And I just advise any individual who is helping people deal with it is, keep your own alignment.
Yes.
Because your own alignment will be more valuable to everybody, and, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, friends, nurses, etc., than anything else.
Regardless of the outcome. Interestingly enough.
Regardless of the outcome, yes.
Yeah, it's true.
Your own alignment. Because that's something you've got control of, to a degree.
Well, that's an interesting point, because when we're under stress, when we're facing something that seems impossible to us, that's when our ability to stay in alignment, it gets really challenged.
But it's an accumulative thing, so it's not something that suddenly it's all like that. It's built up and built up and built up. And each time you've made a mental decision, and then
that's true.
The vibration is there, and then you're rolling down the hill, and then it's difficult to stop. So, you've got to appreciate that you put yourself into that downward motion.
Isn't it interesting
Tearing down the hill.
How all this stuff is about building up a belief.
Yeah.
It's just
a thought you think often.
Yes. Yeah. And when stuff starts to really pile up in the way that you feel like you're pushing a rock uphill, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where you really find out, okay, how much am I committed to this stuff? How much am I committed to this knowledge that Abraham Hicks has given to me? Because that's where it's tough to do. Yeah.
Walter had a funny situation one day. I was teaching somebody, this young girl, 14-year-old girl, and I was saying to her, you know what a belief is? It's just a thought you think often. She says, rubbish. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I think you're a nice person, but I haven't thought about that often.
Oh, that's funny. I love that.
So I was taken to the cleaners. I couldn't really think about how to answer this. So I went home and I thought about it for a bit, and then I came back the next time when I saw her. I said, that's really a wrong word you used. You said, I think you're a nice person. No, I believe you're a nice person, she said. And I haven't been thinking about that, about you often. So I said, all right, so there's grades of it. So there's the word think, and then there's the word think often, which lands into the word belief. So really, she should have said to me, I think you're a nice person, but she shouldn't have said, I believe you're a nice person, if she was going to be accurate to the wording of the words.
I'm going to actually take a little different stance on that one.
Okay.
Because I think that actually the use of the word belief was accurate. I think the real question isn't whether or not she believed it. The question was, how strong was the belief? And
the strength of the belief is how often she thinks.
That's based on how often, exactly. Yeah.
So that's the distinction between think and belief.
If you look at the way dating works and, leading to a relationship, the first date, that sometimes people fall in love on the first date. And I'm never really quite sure exactly what that means other than falling in sex. But the fact is that the passion for a person usually doesn't start right from the get-go and stay at a high level all the time. It usually builds. There's some sort of a ramping up period. And it's not that you didn't like the person. You may have liked them right from the get-go, or you may have liked her right from the get-go. But the fact is, it took time to build up the passion. Why? Because it takes time. You have to keep building that belief up. You have to keep thinking it over and over again. So I think we both said the same
other
thing.
way. It could be the passion, and then over time it gets lower, less.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, it depends on how true you are to what you're saying too. If your vibration's inconsistent, you're going to pretty much tear it down, no matter what you try to do. I mean, I really, really like you. As I say to myself, I think to myself, oh, God, I can't stand this person. I mean, you say that often enough, in about 10 minutes, you're going to lose interest. The belief is going to be long gone.
Well, it's interesting when you land up with that right person, which I did. It's really quite a shock, because all different things of all different ilks and food and movies and places you like to go, and just a whole lot of things just come into place. They all fall into one place, and then you like, oh my gosh, how did all this fit together? And you realize you're a vibrational match, and then everything rolls. And the vibrational match doesn't necessarily last.
This is true. This is true. It's interesting you should mention that too, because I pulled up the next question that I was going to draw from, and in a sense, it draws directly from what you're talking about there. Actually, I think the question was asked in a broader sense than just dating and relationships. But the question was, what allows the feminine and the masculine to flow in perfect harmony?
First of all, people need to really grasp the concept that there will never be perfect harmony on this planet. It's not the design.
Nice. Very nice. High five.
But, it's easy to say, but it's not something people often think there's going to be peace on earth and things like that. There could be peace within yourself for periods of time, but you will not expand unless you have experiences of what you don't want. It's just not going to happen. So, when you know what you don't want, it's obviously the catalyst to what you do want, but it's from their point of view, male and female. What is male and female? I've always had a real big problem with that, because I don't really see male and female. I just see soul or the source energy. So, when I went out with my Spartans guys, for a night out. What was it? Yesterday or the day before? So 3:00 in the morning, I'm like coming home after dancing with the dudes, with the lads in London.
The lads.
It was really an interesting experience, because my foot, I tore the muscle.
How's that doing, by the way?
So I can't run. So everybody was running for the train.
Oh dear.
I was walking to the train, and I just visualized it's going to be okay. I'm going to get there. So as I get there, I'm just walking very casually to the doors, and they're all standing there looking at me. And I said, guys, open my hands like this. I said, guys, it's just going to, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And they just look at me, and I get in, and they all say to me, law of attraction, law of attraction. You used law of attraction.
Well, they got it right. That's true.
They did. Because I did visualize it. So where was I going with this? I was talking, there was a reason I got around to all this.
Well, we're talking about masculine and feminine, and you were talking about how that really didn't mean anything.
Yeah, so you're going there, and there's all these girls trying to pick up these guys, all these guys trying to pick up these girls, and all the games that are played in a club,
Mm-hmm.
And I was very detached from all of this and really appreciated enjoying it. I mean, I had a lot of fun. I mean, believe me, I had a great time. But, I had 0 alcohol in me, practically. I had 1 beer early on. And I was just dancing away and, moving, even though I was holding on to a rail, etc. But
the one-footed dance.
It actually helped. The next day, my leg was even stronger, and every
Good.
day it's getting stronger. So
That's
I
great.
thought it might tire or might get a bit sore, but it didn't. And I was looking at the male and female thing, and it's really interesting because the underlying desires are the same. The guy wants somebody he can share his life with, or share an experience with, and the girl is doing the same thing. So they both, if you go back to their core wants, they're all the same, And when it comes to different sexes, I kind of see more of the sameness rather than the differences, like the genitals and all the rest of it. It's, to me, that's just a little bit of an outer thing, and there's not much else to it. And people can make big deals out of it all, and that's
Oh, they
fine.
do.
That's the game they can play, and you can make no deal out of it, and that's a game I can play. So it's just an appreciation. How can you make them in harmony? So harmony would be based around the core aspect of synchronicity with vibration. So if you're both kind of in a similar vibration, there is going to be that harmony that they're looking for. So, because I know, when I met my wife, etc., it was just a bang. Within 5 days, she was staying in the house, and within 2 days later, I knew we both knew we were going to get married and have kids. So, within 7 days, it was very, very, very short. But when you find the right person, there's no questions. It's just a matter of fact. It's just going to be as it is. So it's really different. It doesn't mean we won't get divorced or separated, etc. But that phase happened. And
Sure.
Abraham says, if those kind of things happen, it's generally a sign that it can last a long time.
Yeah. Oh, I'd agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When you start talking about feminine and masculine and how you were never really sure what those meant, I had to chuckle, and I was chuckling both outside and inside, because that was an issue for me for a long time, really trying to understand it. And I finally came to understand it before I learned about law of attraction in a way that Abraham Hicks kind of reinforced for me, with the whole concept of belief. In fact, that was really the thought that went through my mind when I read this person's post, what allows the feminine and the masculine to flow in perfect harmony. My first question was, what does that mean to you, the feminine, and what does that mean to you, the masculine? What's your belief about each of those things? Because your belief is what's going to drive the whole thing. So it's almost like it's a loaded question. I want you to tell me what allows the two to flow together, but I'm not going to tell you what the two are. So the best we can answer is, well, it depends what you believe about each one of them and how much similar vibration the two beliefs have. If the two beliefs are quite different, you're going to have a hard time. It's going to be pretty hard to get those flowing in harmony.
Well, there's the funny thing about the law of attraction is a teacher has a teacher vibration, but a teacher is not looking for another teacher.
It's true. Yeah.
So a teacher is looking for a student. A student vibration is very different to a teacher vibration, but the want of the teacher is for a student, and the student's want is for a master, and that's where the synchronicity comes in. And if you look at that from the male-female vibrational point of view, it becomes a incredible harmonious synchronicity, which at its height, if you read certain books about master-student relationships, at its absolute height, a male-female relationship will be a spiritually inclined one. It will be something quite different to what you maybe started off thinking it could be.
It's a good point. I mean, the way I said it needed a little bit of improvement, because I said that if they were on different vibrations, it wasn't going to work. What I should have said is if they were incompatible vibrations, it wasn't going to work. Yeah, but your point is well taken. That's exactly what the truth is. And interestingly enough, that can mean different things to different people as to what is masculine, what is feminine. I mean, today we're now in an age where variants on human sexuality are gaining acceptance. Homosexuality, transgender, a variety of different alternatives are coming to the fore. And it's really kind of, I'll say, destroyed the old ideas about what masculine and feminine meant. I mean, today masculine means something quite different from what it meant when I was, say, 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It means something very, very different culturally.
To our parents' generation versus our generation.
Oh, no doubt about it. And same thing for feminine. Feminine means something completely different. Feminine, when I was growing up, was before feminist. The idea of feminist didn't even exist. It was a non sequitur. It didn't even fit into the conversation. Today it's almost like assumed, so masculine and feminine mean completely different things today than they did 50, 60 years ago.
So it's been interesting. I've been thinking about feminism for a little while recently, because from a law of attraction point of view, I always take different groups and I like looking at them. So if you're looking at a feminist, right, now the group itself, are they fighting against masculinity, or are they fighting for, well, not fighting, are they focused on their completion, on their wholeness, on their not zero vulnerability? And the groups generally aren't focused on what they want. They're generally not. But there are always spurts that come out of it. So, when you really know what you don't want, you start getting a better idea of what you do. Comes out of it. So these groups, as much as they're focused more on what they don't want, still have these enlightened phases where they follow what they do want with their focus. Yeah.
So carrying on with the relationship theme, I'm going to go on to the next question. The next one comes from a woman who's saying, I'm really trying to understand co-creation, especially as it relates to the pain we feel when someone we love chooses very self-destructive behavior or is not mentally well. I've gotten pretty good at righting my own ship, though it's a work in progress. But even though we're all in our own journey, there's no way not to be affected by this. I am literally processing trauma, and I don't know how to integrate LOA teachings. Any thoughts or resources appreciated?
It's very simple. They probably won't like it necessarily that much, but it's really simple. You've got one subject, you've got two sides to it, and she's only focusing on the one.
Elaborate on that. I agree with you,
what's happening.
But you got to be a little bit more clear, I think, for somebody who's stuck in the middle of that, because what you just said is not going to make any sense to them at all.
That's the thing about philosophy, Walt.
Yes.
First of all, philosophy has to be practical, and it is. And you have to be able to learn to take the teachings of Abraham and understand the philosophy and then apply them to all the different scenarios. And then you've got power. So a wise man once said, and I do consider this individual extremely wise in his day, he said, when you start focusing more on philosophy in your life rather than specifics, you are treading the enlightened path.
Okay.
So when somebody says to me, yeah, that's a very simple philosophy, how do you put it in practical? I kind of hand it over to Walt. You're better at dealing with this. I'll talk about the philosophy because that is my strength and my understanding. And it's really a very, very simple thing. There's one subject. The subject is let's nail the subject down. What is it? Just read the question again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's mainly in the first sentence. I'm really trying to understand co-creation, especially as it relates to the pain we feel when someone we love chooses very self-destructive behavior or is not mentally well. And like you pointed out, the person's focusing on one side of the equation only. And actually, I would even say they're focusing on one to exclusion of a number of different perspectives. But, generally speaking, we usually try to divide things into two things because there are basically two kinds of people in the world, those who divide the world into two kinds of people and those who do not. And we're going to be among that first group. So, so we're going to say, okay, two kinds of people. And if in this particular instance, what's the other kind of person? Well, the first kind of person is the one that she's described, which I presume is herself, which is someone who is dealing with the pain associated with someone else choosing self-destructive behavior or who is not, in her words, mentally well. And that's the side she's focused on. She is latched on to feeling pain about that situation. And that, I think, is what I was trying to get you to point to. This is where I thought you'd go with it, but I was completely wrong. I thought you were going to go to, well, she chose that belief, and she continues to choose that belief. And in fact, as long as she continues to choose that belief, she's going to feel the pain. If she really wants to get rid of the pain, she has to shift the belief. The belief has to change. The belief is associated with the idea that she's going to feel pain whenever someone she loves engages in something self-destructive or behaves in a mentally ill manner. And as long as that's the case, that's a setup. That's a setup that she'll never escape.
Yeah. So the first thing we need to make an individual who asks those kind of questions clearly aware is you are asking how you deal with it, okay? Not how you can change the other individual, because you can't. You can maybe help by remaining aligned, but that still requires the other person to agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
They might just get spun out. You can get so aligned that they don't want to be around you anymore and they vanish. Okay. So the first thing you need to make somebody aware of is your question is not relating to how to deal with the other person, not relating to how to change the other person, but it's how you can deal with it.
Right.
So it's a personal thing. And when you get from that perspective, then we can start helping you, because you now understand that for things to change, you have to change. And you have to understand now, what do you have to change? So what's the subject? The subject is, how do I emotionally deal with another person hurting themselves?
And she's made that fairly clear in the last portion, because the last portion she says, I am literally processing trauma. In other words, she's feeling trauma. Now, it can imply that the other person's experiencing trauma. That could be part of it. But I'm pretty confident she's throwing that in there because she's feeling it. She's experiencing it. It's a very traumatic experience for her. And that trauma, again, is tied to her focus, her belief that the self-destructive behavior of someone else or the mental illness of somebody else is going to cause her pain.
Mm-hmm. So one of the first things there is she's handing over her power to the other person.
Yep.
Another thing is, if you are traumatized, okay, we know we're doing it to ourselves. So it's like taking a knife to ourselves. And that's an important distinction to make. It's not them doing it to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
it's
big
you
deal.
doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, this gets banded around a lot in the spiritual circles, and it's called spiritual detachment. And what's that trying to point out is your clarity that you must keep your own alignment with yourself, and that you should allow other people to do whatever they want.
Which isn't easy.
And it isn't, especially when you love them.
When you love them and you care about them and you want them to enjoy happiness and joy and so forth, and they're clearly in a place that's not like that, not easy about that.
Now, easy or not easy, the concept of love, what is love? When you break it down, you start realizing it's nothing like what you thought it was in the beginning. And humans will often say you're not human if you don't have compassion and love. You're just not human anymore. You're now following a cult or something or whatever. You've gone down a route where you're not human anymore. And you'll find that the very highly spiritual individuals on this planet who have lived and who are still living look at it from a very, very, very different perspective. They look at it from spiritual detachment point of view. And that point of view says this. It says, I will keep my alignment and I will allow you to do whatever you want to.
Mm.
And that frees the individual up to such an incredible degree that
It does.
this individual will be completely freed with the full understanding of, and practice of that. They will have no trauma whatsoever. They will have more compassion, is the word I probably would use more than anything else. They'll be able to help them to a far greater degree if they're in that place, in that position, if in that thought process. And, spiritual detachment is absolutely key, which really means alignment from an Abraham Hicks point of view.
Yeah. Spiritual detachment is almost a misleading phrase because it sounds like you're supposed to detach from yourself, and that's really not what it is. But
it's detaching from everybody else's stuff and aligning with your stuff. So yeah,
exactly. That's well said. And I mean, there may have been people who were kind of looking quizzically at their devices earlier when I mentioned that I don't really think much about death dates. How could he not listen? How could he not care about all that stuff? That this is all important stuff. My wife was watching a television program today that was all about, end of life. And there was two parents talking with their 3 adult children about, where do you want us to be buried? And, what are your thoughts on this? And the kids are doing everything they can to avoid the conversation because they don't really want to give input to the parents about it at all. It's like, I have no interest in this, but the parents are all wrapped up in, well, yeah, but when we're gone, you're going to have to deal with all this stuff. And I'm sitting there kind of like the kids saying, okay, yeah, you're making a big deal here, but why should I make a big deal out of this? It's kind of like reminding me of what Abraham says about death. Abraham says they basically want to be as disrespectful as possible about death. Yeah. Because they want to take the sting out of it. They want to end this idea that death is a horrible thing that leads to the permanent destruction of the essence of who you are, which is about as far away from the truth as it could be.
See, the interesting thing, Walt, is you keep on talking about how you're not interested in dates, yet you know all the dates. The interesting thing is I don't know what date my mom died. The only reason I know what date my dad died is because he died not so long ago on my birthday. So I can't forget it.
Well, same thing with my grandmother. My grandmother died on my birthday, so I get that. And
I don't know when the Second World War was. I don't know when the First World War was. I don't know when half my kids' dates of year of birth is. I know what date. So,
I'll tell you too, for me, numbers are a thing to remember. I mean, I can tell you what all of my phone numbers were over time. And I can tell you I have no emotional attachment to any of them. But ask me what my phone number was when I was growing up. It was area code 518-377-9035. I mean, I can remember this. That was like, what, 50 years ago? I remember numbers. That's just what I am. So remembering dates isn't difficult for me, which is ironic because in school I was really bad at it. I think because I just didn't want, what they were shoving down my throat. But if it's anything that I have any kind of non-angered attachment to, where I'm either neutral to it or I love it or somewhere in between, remembering it's easy for me. Remembering a number is really, really easy. And always has been.
Block out memories that have caused pain.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that.
And I find that is very healthy.
Can be. I think the real question is, does blocking it out allow you to move on, or does blocking it out give you an excuse to hang on to it and get attached to it in an unhealthy way?
Well, the reason you went through it was to focus on what you do want. And yes, if you have continued to focus on what you don't want, it's unhealthy. If you have followed the rocket of desire, then it is healthy. So yes, that's how it breaks down. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So now we get an easy question. This one comes with a graphic. This one comes with a graphic of a.
I'm sure I can make it difficult, Will.
Well, we'll work on it. Give it a shot. This one has a graphic of a dog rolling around on his back. Have you ever seen a dog doing that? I mean, they do it so joyfully and so forth. And
it's like human stretching a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting in the context of what the person posted. It was just a very simple question. What does allowing mean to you?
remember I said to my mom, may the blessings be. She said, why do you keep on saying that? Be what? What do you want them to be? I said, just let them be, Mom. She said, but be what? I said, just let them be. So I started singing the song, of course, let it be, let it be, let it be, oh, let it be.
Don't quit your day job.
No, my wife says the same. So read the question again.
Very simple. What does allowing mean to you?
So allowing, so let it be, let allowing. So allowing is not enough, really. So I would like to say allowing, and then I will say low resistance, and I'll say low resistance. When you've got low enough resistance, you'll have enough allowing. So allowing is getting from what's in the vortex, out of the vortex, into the bank, or the car, or into your partner. So that allowing to me is connecting with source energy and manifesting. That's the simple answer.
I'd say you're right. That's exactly right. Especially if we're going to express it in the positive rather than in the negative. It's easy to express it in the negative. Allowing is letting go of what you don't want, but it's much better to express it in the positive. The way you just said, it's reconnecting if you're disconnected, or connecting with source energy. That's exactly it. It's connecting to that high vibrational place. And the moment you're high vibrational, that's the moment you're allowing.
The thing I learned from Abraham Hicks Walt was very interesting, because I never understood that vortex, that higher place, is actually personally created by me with a vault of everything I want, or a bank. I didn't, I always looked at it as the God energy or the source energy, something way beyond me. But now I'm looking at that space in a sense of something I created, but that is in alignment with everything I want, and it's in harmony, and it's in alignment with source, and therefore I can access it, and therefore I can manifest it. If you can believe it or think about it, you can manifest it.
That's true. Yeah. Very good. Okay. Well, now we got a question that's good. I've never seen this question before in an LOA group. Never. This is a different one. Yeah. Hey, everyone. I have always wondered why Abraham doesn't laugh. They just smile, but they never laugh. I've never come across a question in their workshop where a person asks this, and I don't know if there's anyone, if these anywhere they explain why. I think you know what that means.
Well, I can answer the question.
And then the person concludes, maybe it's not good for Esther. I don't know. So what's the answer?
So Jerry once said to Abram, I'm going to get you to laugh one day. And they have been asked many, many times why they don't laugh, and the answer is very simple. And it's an interesting one. It has many ramifications. The answer is, the reason anybody laughs is they're surprised. It's not what they expect.
That's a very good point.
And there's nothing that they there's nothing they haven't heard before, don't know.
Yeah.
So there is no surprise.
Right. That gives me something to kind of follow up on in terms of the question I've asked myself many times. Why do people keep coming back here for the physical experience, knowing they're going to deal with all kinds of difficulties and so forth? And the answer in part is, if you don't come back here, you always know the answer. You know all of it. There's nothing left to know. Whereas when you come back to the physical world and you lose some connection with all of that knowledge, now it's almost like you're relearning it again. It's like you're going through the process of just what you went through the first time you were learning it all.
That's a great aha, Walt. That is, there's still clarity on that I want, but that is the reason we come to the physical universe, is to play with the contrast for expansion. But now you're starting to see it from another point of view, and it's perfect. It's brilliant. Yeah.
And to me, it's a lot easier than we come here for the purpose of experiencing contrast in order to pursue our own expansion. I think it's just much easier
Not
to
our
say,
own expansion, sources expansion.
well, sources expansion. But,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, to me, it's a lot easier to say, I came here just so that I could go through that process of growth of what I went through in order to learn it all and experience it all over again. That actually says it a lot better for me. Because, yeah, well, sure. Because the journey is fun when you look at it that way. The journey isn't so much fun when you're dealing with that stage 4 cancer with your parent and you're not sure how to handle it and you're feeling all kinds of feelings you don't really want to feel because of a belief system you built up. That part's not so easy, perhaps. But when you understand that you came here in order to experience that so you could relearn this stuff because it was fun to learn once you got through and learned at the end, well, yeah, because learning and actually making progress feels good. That part, no matter what you've been going through, which is why you get people like, you know, our friend Joel, who talked about how he was a gambling addict and homeless and thrown out of his family and in jail. And that was the best thing that ever happened to him because from that point on, his life became wonderful. You know, so there's an example of it. Somebody who really, really put themselves into a bad, bad place so they could grow right back out of it again.
And it's interesting. I always know that when I'm sicker, when I'm really sick, it's far easier for me to use the bits of knowledge that I've gained along the way to get myself well much faster.
Yeah.
So when you really hit the one side, it's really easier to swing over to the other side.
No doubt.
When you're in the middle, it's very difficult to see what's what. You know, the clarity is not as clear. And when the contrast is bigger, it's much easier to see.
I will add one thing to the observation that you shared about Abraham's reason, which I thought was a good one, that nothing ever surprises them. But Abraham may not laugh, but they love having us laugh.
Yes.
Because I
don't think they love it. I don't think they mind. They, you know, if we didn't laugh at their jokes, I don't think that it would have any effect on them whatsoever.
No, but I don't think that has anything to do with whether or not they love it. Loving it to me is being in that flow, being in that vortex. It's being totally connected. And they're, of course, always totally connected. But there's just one more way to be connected. And I think it's the same feeling that a comedian has.
That's the exact point. I agree with you. They are saying, you know, you're coming to our seminars to get more in alignment, and laughing is part of alignment. And
they spend a lot of the time making funny statements at the webinars, at the seminars, rather. I mean, they do it a lot. Most of Esther's initial monologue as Abraham is just chock full of humor. I mean, that's like patterned. Every single show is like that. You know, so clearly they love it. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing it.
Yeah, I just think that their goal, from what I can see, is very, very clear. Their goal is simply to help people understand how to gain. They said to them, guys, everybody sells. You know what we're selling? We're selling alignment.
Very well said.
It is. It's brilliant. It is brilliant. And, you know, I consider myself somebody who sells alignment too. And that is great. You know, I mean, you start realizing that alignment is everything.
It's true. Well, actually, that's why I subtitled the show "Your Daily Dose of Happy." I'm selling alignment as well. I do it 5 days a week, you know, and I love it, and I'll probably do it for the rest of my life because I love it that much. I mean, it's just fun. You know, hey guys, let's get aligned today. What do you say? You know, kind of reminds me of when I was a kid, teenager, and friends were trying to lead me astray into the world of alcohol and drugs and so forth. Come on, let's go have a beer. Let's go have a joint. Let's go have this, that, or the other thing. Except that in this case, it's actually good for you. I like the contrast on that.
Well, it's the whole thing about habits. You get good and bad habits, isn't it?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And again, you've got one subject that has got two sides.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and the important thing that I feel a lot of people who are asking questions, like in this group, the important thing, Walt, is to understand clearly the subject you have a problem with. What is the subject I have a problem with?
Yeah.
And understand that petting your dog is not a thing that you have a problem with.
Petting
and
your dog is
understanding
often a
that
solution.
this subject is, yes, and that this subject is a subject I have a problem with. So once you break down the subject and make it clear for yourself, you can start changing your vibration on that subject.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good question to ask. You know, what exactly, how did you phrase it?
What's the subject that you have an issue with?
That you have an issue with, right? Yes. What's the subject? That's good. Because anytime that when, like you say, when we're asking one of these questions, like they're asking in the group, and that's what the group is for, it's a good thing to do. But every time we're asking one of those questions, there is a question we have neglected to ask ourselves about how do I feel about this thing? About what's
The other aspect of the question is to understand that what is your problem with this question? What is your problem with your naughty kid? Not what's the problem with the naughty kid.
Oh, yes.
What is your problem with your naughty kid?
By the way, the answer is contained in part in the question because you described it as naughty, which means that you have attached a moral attachment to the kid in your mind. It's a focus. Yes, that's better. A moral focus to it. And you're the one who did it. To me, that's the big point right there. You're the one who did it. You're the one who attached it to the kid. The kid didn't attach it to himself. You attached it to him. The kid has absolutely no care one way or the other about whether you think that he's naughty, other than, will I be able to get my food and keep my bed? Other than that, he doesn't care about naughty. That was your perception, not his.
Walter, I was teaching LOA to this lady in the sauna just the other day, and she was bringing up her big problem with her daughter's addiction to screen time. And I was saying to her, what is your focus? Is your focus with this subject? First of all, I brought it around to understand that it's her problem. And I asked her what her problem was. And her problem was that she didn't like what other people were doing.
Phrase it that way, it's quite different.
That's a bit harsh. I mean,
yeah.
That's the truth.
Ah.
So I said to her, have you spent time thinking about how beneficial screen time is?
Oh.
And that didn't go down particularly well either.
Yeah, that's a hot button right there.
But, you know, when you've got a problem with your children's screen time, it's because you are focused on what you don't like about all these things. And therefore, guess what's going to happen? They're going to spend more time watching those shitty programs, the killing games, the blah, 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 blah. so forth. Where they would tend to rise to your level of expectation if you're saying, oh, are you watching... what's that? National Geographic on Egypt. Or...
National Geographic, I love
it. Something educational, at least.
Right.
Or an opera or a play. You know, and visualizing these things can be quite useful.
That's true. I'll close. We got like 5 minutes left. I'll make sure I get our promotional announcements in there, but also close with one thought that person posted here, and I want to see what you think. The person said, she says, every positive emotion has a counterpart negative emotion. We are all activating each end of the stick, but we can choose. It's kind of a softball, but what the heck?
No, most people are softer than me.
I think she's right. I think that's essentially it. We do get to choose. That's the whole point of having a two-ended stick. Of course, it's also helpful to understand why it's a two-ended stick in the first place, because it isn't just that it's positive and negative.
And also why you tend to go down the same route again and again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true.
When you start understanding that, you start understanding the law of attraction.
But specifically in the realm of Abraham Hicks, the two-ended stick has a very specific meaning, because on the one end of the stick is the thing you want, and on the other end is the lack of the thing you want. So it's very, very specific.
Yeah.
So want to remind people who are not yet subscribed to the podcast to become subscribers if you are so inclined. Hopefully you're enjoying this. This is the kind of good conversation you get every single day that you tune in. And we're doing this 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So you're getting 5 shows a week. That's 20 shows a month. And they're all free. I mean, how much better can you get than that? Especially when you're contrasting this program with some of the other programs that are out there, like 99% of them that are focusing on a whole bunch of negative stuff that nobody really likes very much. we focus on what you like. So, subscribe and find that what our 600 odd subscribers are already finding that, this actually helps pick you up. This helps you feel good just by listening to the show every day. And heaven forbid, you might even decide to actually send us an email or a note, and then we include it in the show, and then you feel even better. That's what we call your daily dose of happy. So subscribe.
Or even better, come on live. Let's have a chat.
Oh, that would be great. We don't get that too often, but every once in a while that happens, and that's a lot of fun. Oh, yeah. Nothing like having a listener come on. And by the way, we're very supportive. We don't tear people down, just to let you know. But very simple to subscribe. Just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net, and you'll see right at the top of the page instructions on how to subscribe. It takes 1, 2, maybe 3 clicks, and then you're done. And all of our episodes are coming right to your device. Plus, you can check us out on YouTube because we live stream these recordings as we're recording them to YouTube. Just do a search for LOA Today podcast videos and subscribe there, and you can see the YouTube videos as well. So 2 different ways to subscribe. And a reminder once again, my sister-in-law, Ioana, is going to be joining us next week. So 2 will become 3. And Louis, I'm going to be really curious to see what you think about
the new dynamic.
Yeah, it's going to be a very different dynamic. This is not going to be the Jinshin dynamic with your sister-in-law. My sister-in-law is on a different tack. She's more Joel-like in a sense. And literally, I connected the 2 together. Because when we visited them, my brother and sister-in-law in Florida in January, one of the things that came up in conversation is that she wants to write a book on the importance of struggle in terms of human development, which is exactly what Joel talked about so often. So I said, well, geez, you got to be talking to Joel. So I put the 2 in touch with each other. They had a long conversation. And the bottom line is they're actually both working on books at the same time. So they're going to be kind of collaborating on each other's books and reading each other's material and giving each other feedback. Yeah. So it's going to be kind of like having a female Joel on the show. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Joel's a great guy.
He is. I love him. He's great. I miss him. He's going to be back, I'm sure, at some point because he was actually, Ioana was my first co-host. After about a year and a quarter, actually about a year, she had to drop out because of a change that went on in her life. And within weeks of that, I was able to reconnect with Joel, who I'd interviewed on one of my first shows. And he did the show with me for about, I want to say 2.5 years. And then he had to take a break because of something that happened with his, both his career and his adopted sons. And then he came back again. I think that was December of 2017 and stayed with us until this past September when I shifted the schedule around and he couldn't keep doing it anymore than the new schedule. So clearly he has a pattern of coming back and I think it's going to happen again. I just can't tell you exactly when it's going to be, but that's what I keep focusing on. That's one of my things I'm trying to attract into the show.
Brilliant.
Good stuff. So what do you think? Do you like doing this Q&A off of stuff on Facebook? Should we do that some more?
Yeah, anything. I mean, I'd love live chatting.
Oh, well, yeah, that's much better. Sure.
Then you can dig a bit deeper. But yeah, we can take questions from anywhere. Yeah.
I'm not sure how much we're going to do that in the next few weeks because it's going to be bringing Ioana on and learning about her stuff and seeing how the new dynamic works.
I'm completely flexible. You can throw anything at me from any angle.
Okay. Well, we'll see just really how much you can flex.
Cool. Challenge. Let's go.
There you go. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much to our podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Go video.